What is up? My name is Graham Tuttle, the Barefoot Sprinter, with my good friend James Pieratt, otherwise known as Wild Hunt Conditioning. And today we're going to talk about 3 injury-proofing tips you should be doing for your body that most runners aren't doing. Now, James has run hundreds of miles, including a 500-mile solo-supported trek along the Pacific Crest Trail. Is that?
That's right. That's right.
Up through the Northern California, Washington, Oregon. It's crazy. I just kind of sprint barefoot on occasion. But both ends of the spectrum give us some insight on what you should be doing for your body. So we're going to cover 3 things that are, we won't bury the lead, working on single leg and focused strength work, plyometrics, speed work, and a little bonus tip that we'll leave you at the end. So let's talk about strength work first.
So when you're looking at strength training for runners, generally what you want to emphasize is training single leg exercises. Okay, so specifically, this would be stuff like the Bulgarian split squat or the single leg Romanian deadlift or the Cossack squat or side lunge. So the reason you want to do this is because when you're running, all of your weight at any time you take, any step you take is going to be loaded on one leg. Okay, so if you're training yourself to squat 500 pounds on a barbell with both legs in the gym, it's not really going to carry over as much as you might think to running. Additionally, this is going to give you a lot of injury resistance and benefits in terms of stability and actually the mechanics of your running. So I like to make most of my lower body strength training for runners to be single leg training.
And most importantly on that, you want to make sure you're working a full range of motion. Now, the other thing about single leg training is that it lets you work on asymmetries. If you are a right leg dominant person, say you have a history of soccer, so James played soccer when he was growing up, his left leg might not be as developed, or it might be weirdly developed from a plant perspective. So when you're doing single leg stuff, you can work on these things and find different areas. But always work through a full range of motion. When you are sprinting or running or doing any type of endurance thing, you're kind of stuck in one spot. So you want to get that full knee bend, that full hip flexion. That's a really important thing to keep your body well-rounded and healthy. Once you're strong enough for that, then you want to think about plyometrics. Now, plyometrics are important because this is going to train your entire fascial system to work together. Now, when you're doing a squat or a strength movement, you're slow, you're kind of bouncing. It could be fast, it could be explosive, but there's a difference in bouncing and being off the ground and the type of movement you have when you're running or doing sprinting and any type of strength work. So you also have to train the fascia and the connective tissue like tendons, ligaments, etc., the entire fascial casement of your body, as well as muscles. That's what plyometrics work on. Now, plyometrics may seem advanced. They may seem like something that only seasoned athletes know how to do, and you have to be like a professional level soccer player or whatever to do it, but you can start very easily. You don't even have to leave the ground to get this kind of bouncy sensation. And you can hold on to something like a good friend, and you're bouncing, and you start to think about this, and you can work up to one leg. But the goal is to start thinking about things in terms of getting this bouncy quick, you're off the ground. And there's a difference between a slow, like a calf raise, for example. So if I'm thinking a calf raise here, I lift up and go back down, this is slow, versus this bouncy thing where I'm hitting the bottom and popping up. And eventually I leave the ground. That's the start of the plyometrics. Then you can work on to single leg jumps, you could jump off the ground, you could bounce, you could do pogo hops. I mean, James, like there's a whole history of cultures and tribes that use this stuff, right?
Oh yeah. So the Messi Tribe in Africa, for those who aren't aware, they are the most ferocious lion hunters in the entire world. To this day, they hunt lions with nothing more than a spear. And a big part of both their culture and their training are these dance celebrations where they form large circles, they play music, they drum, and then people begin bouncing and pogoing like this. Now these guys, they can jump higher than any NBA player you've seen at any dunk contest ever. They train plyometrics the right way, and it is just like Graham was talking about. Just little bounces, playing. They don't even get crazy. They just essentially escalate, they build volume, and as they go, they spend less time in contact with the ground. Just light, springing pogos. Now additionally, makes your lower body joints extremely robust, but it also helps power production, which has been linked through all sorts of studies to longevity as basically one of the top factors, along with muscle mass and grip strength, in keeping you young forever.
And part of that is building up into what is important for running. It's called speed work. And so speed work is really, I hesitate to say it like this, but it's like strength work specifically for runners because you're putting yourself in this position and you're loading, using gravity to load yourself more than you would. If you're just going to do a steady state run or a steady state endurance aerobic effort, or maybe you're on a treadmill, you're in the same kind of position. You're in the same kind of load. It's over and over. You have a lot of steps like that. But the strength work or the speed work allows you to increase the intensity of each step, increase the load with the acceleration of gravity is going down, and that forces you to work on your running form. So this is important because not only are you getting stronger, meaning I can put more force in the ground in the movement of running, but I'm also better able to hone my form against resistance. For example, if I want to work on improving my squat form, I can squat like this with no weight. but this isn't going to handle, I mean, some people, I guess, it's not going to handle 500 pounds. So I have to biomechanically stack myself up a little bit more efficiently if I want to hold 500 pounds or pick it up off the ground. So these are the things you want to think about is when you increase it, whether it's hills is going up sprints up a hill, which is a great way to start because the increased incline makes it harder for you to step and you can't actually, it's really hard to hurt yourself. Backward strides, build-up strides, single leg bounds.
So guys, look at it like this. I'm one of the longest range ultramarathon runners on planet Earth. Okay, I can run out to, so far at least out to 500 miles. Yet once a week you'll still find me here sprinting barefoot in a park with Graham somewhere. Now the reason for that is because power production, injury resistance, and mechanics developed through sprinting have a massive carryover, even to someone like me who's only going to run 10 or 12 miles, or 10 or 12 minutes per mile for multiple days without stopping. So you might not think that there's a carryover, but there is immediate and undeniable benefits to sprinting, regardless of whether you're an ultramarathon runner or any other type of athlete.
And just to answer the question that popped in your mind, we do a barefoot because it stacks on benefits. You get the grounding impact of touching the ground, but you're also you're having to navigate and mitigate the forces with your feet and lower legs alone. You don't have shoes to offset that. That's obviously more challenging. It's great to build up, but I want you to think of barefoot running, barefoot stride, barefoot sprint work as a supplement for your running. It forces you to run correctly, it forces you to strike the ground efficiently, and it forces you to get stronger without compensating. When you add shoes on, it's a superpower, but you do have to work into that. So don't just go jumping out and run barefoot right now if you're not prepared for it, but consider it as an additional bonus skill that you can work on, and it makes everything that much better. But when you are wearing shoes, there is something you might want to consider. This is the bonus pro tip.
So I am a massive fanatic of merino wool. Okay, for my socks, for my running clothes, but specifically in terms of wearing merino wool socks on your feet, I'm a big fan of the 5-fingered socks, but any pair of merino wool socks is going to be a massive step up from your standard pair of synthetic Nike running socks. Now the reason for this, other than blister resistance, the fact that they're way more comfortable, is they're also naturally antimicrobial. You see, merino wool, the fibers are so thin that even bacteria can't effectively colonize them, which means that any abrasions, blisters, or irritations you have on your feet are going to be a lot more sanitary. It's going to be a lot more difficult for them to get infected, and your feet aren't going to stink as bad. But more than that, it's going to be the most comfortable pair of socks you've ever worn, particularly if you get merino wool toe socks. So I wear merino wool every single time I run, practice run, long run, doesn't matter. It will change your life if you are a runner.
Big fan of the toe socks here. We love toe socks, we love bare feet. Thank you for watching. This is James Pieratt at Wild Hunt Conditioning, Graham Tuttle, the Barefoot Sprinter. Enjoy, ask questions below if you have any comments or anything you want to add. Subscribe, see you next time.